Hello, welcome. I'm Dr. Victoria Verleza. I use pronouns she and her, and I am joined today for our Rethink Ability session with Rebecca Taylor, who I'm going to let introduce herself in one moment. Just for folks to know, I am a white woman with short black hair. I am wearing a beige shirt. I am in front of a white wall with some interesting colors, some red, some black, some orange, different things, and a nice little plant in the corner. I do also have a cat in front of me, so if Oscar pops up at any point, enjoy the fluff. Rebecca, welcome.
Thank you, Victoria. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Rebecca Taylor. I use pronouns she, her. I am the Chief Customer Officer and co-founder at SkillCycle. I'm against a sort of neutral beige background. I'm wearing a gray shirt and I'm a white woman with dark curly hair that's kind of up in a bun because we're having a lot of humidity today and that's just what it needed to be. I
Well,
do have a dog in the room. I do have a dog in the room. His name is Kevin. He's usually quiet, but if he chimes in, he likes to agree with me on things. So I think he knows my vocal inflections when I'm saying things that he likes. So if he participates, that's who that is.
first and foremost, folks listening, watching, how cool is it that we both have critters with human names
Yeah.
in an Oscar? I mean, there is no
I
better.
believe I believe animals should have human names as much as possible.
I agree. They are our fur babies. Well, Rebecca, we're so excited to hear your story and Skill Cycle's story. Why don't we start a little bit about where this idea came from, how you got involved? Like, share your story.
Yeah. So I actually spent the first part of my career for about 10 years in HR. So like many folks who work in HR, I kind of fell into it. I started in learning and development at Lord and Taylor Fifth Avenue, may it rest in peace. And my role was really focused on seasonal hiring and seasonal training. So teaching people how to use the cash register, what customer service was, and teaching different competencies to different audiences. So communication is going to look different from a store level person dealing with customers face to face versus someone who might be dealing with them over the phone in the fulfillment center. And so that was kind of what the beginning of my journey in HR was very much focused on learning and flexing that learning to different audiences. Like a lot of folks in HR, I then sort of worked my way up through recruiting. I always say still that I'm a recovering recruiter. I love connecting people. I love, sort of putting the dots together and connecting the dots to kind of see who might know who might be able to help people with things. Um, and so after growing my way up in recruitment, my last role before co-founding SkillCycle, I was a head of people and culture at a Series A startup in New York for about 3 years. Built out all performance management, recruiting, everything that involved your experience working at that company was essentially curated and designed by me. And it was in that job that I sort of, had the urge to do something different. Because I felt like there was a lot that I could do to help a lot of different organizations and not just kind of be in one. And so I was speaking with an old boss of mine. This was 8 years ago now, I think. And I said, I want to do something where I'm helping people learn. I want to do something where people can have resources to be better at their jobs, grow at their jobs in a safe and supportive way, and not look at learning as punishment or a drag. I really wanted it to be something that was relevant to people and interesting. And that's kind of where the idea for SkillCycle started. We started as a coaching company, so connecting people to real life human coaches that they would meet virtually just like this. And over the last 7 years, we've evolved into a full talent development organization. So essentially building the tools for people to get feedback, to understand, what am I good at? What do I maybe need some help with? And then attach that to learning opportunities. So whether that's learning content, live human coaching, or AI augmented support as well in the flow of work. So I talk about this stuff every day, all the time. And my favorite part is that we work with so many different types of organizations from, a 50-person, family owned business to a huge enterprise organization of over 10,000 employees. And each of those organizations have different requirements and different needs. And so our job is to kind of find that common thread that makes us the resource that helps every employee to feel seen and have access to what they need.
I love it. That's amazing. Particularly because I love talking about performance management, but that is not why we're here. although I could go on so many tangents.
Oh, me too.
I'm sure. So with SkillCycle, how do you all deal with manage, support, encourage accessibility? What is like the number one thing that you want folks to hear about?
Yeah. So it's funny. The accessibility conversations at Skill Cycle didn't start until I think it was maybe 3 years ago. Not because we were avoiding them. I think we were victims of our own hubris, where we were like, we come from HR, we do all the things. So we didn't necessarily understand what about our website needed to be more accessible, what about our product needed to be more accessible, until we signed with this customer who they signed a small pilot with us. They're a higher education institution. And, they were offering some coaching to some people. They really liked it. They wanted to do more. In order to do more, they had requirements that our technology had to have because, higher ed is, I think, really good at making sure that there's accessibility in everything that they offer to their staff, to their students. And so that was when our conversations really started because we were like, okay, well, we want this deal. We're
Right.
still, a startup. Any deal is exciting to chase. This was a partner who we liked working with them. They liked working with us. We saw good results. So, we were like, what do we need to do? And that was when we really started to have conversations around accessibility. And I think, and they really started because we were like, we didn't realize we weren't.
Mm,
And so what's been interesting was having that customer who was sort of in it with us from the beginning to say, hey, this is something that matters to us. If
mm,
working with us matters to you, this is where we need you to be. And our style, just as an organization, we're very collaborative. We love to partner. And we also selfishly saw it as this is a revenue generating strategy right here. Because it not only contributes to winning this deal with this customer, but also it opens up to a lot of others that we might not even realize that we were missing out on.
mm,
And so the beauty of the whole process was we got a list of what we needed to do. And we just kind of had to go through the list. It was things like, adjusting colors on the website and on the product to make them more visually accessible. It was things like putting closed captions on our learning videos. Again, things that now in hindsight seem so obvious,
mm.
but were sort of this learning moment. And what was interesting is that it wasn't as hard as we thought it was going to be. So I think the key was sort of having a really good partner to sort of kick us off in the conversation. They had skin in the game. We had a
Mm,
revenue reason to do it.
mm.
And then the list was still all completely reasonable things that didn't seem that difficult and ultimately weren't. So it's been a cool journey, and it's sort of one of those things now as standard part of our development is we have an accessibility check for every single,
Awesome.
roadmap item, every single thing that we do is just that's now just built into the process. So moving forward, we're just always where we need to be.
That's amazing. And I think you're highlighting something really important, especially for our viewers. Either they are folks who work in organizations as an individual contributor or their leadership, but like the idea that anyone can become disabled at any point, right? Like
Hmm.
the accessibility by an accident, you could age into a disability. Anything can really happen. The idea of becoming disabled needs to be part of the conversation because accessibility, as you pointed out, is just, it can be so light. Just as I'm colorblind, fun fact, folks, as a woman, that's not a very common thing. So that is something a lot of folks don't think about is how colors, and you said contrast, etc. It's
Yeah.
something that people don't think about until they realize, oh, this is something for us. So you mentioned that it was easier is the wrong word. It was more accessible for you all to have the list from your client. Are there tips or tricks that you would give to any of our listeners or our viewers on what could they do today to start those accessibility checks or to even start thinking about some of these things?
Yeah. So I think it's going to be important to think about where you want to start. So do you want to start with your experience at the company, so sort of your workplace experience? So are we looking at internal policies? Are we looking at physical office setup or physical office, contributors? Or do you need to or want to look at it from a for our from this is for our customers kind of perspective? Because it can feel like a huge list or just a lot to undertake. And my recommendation is always to kind of start with something that is going to have a big impact or it can have a good impact, but isn't boiling the ocean all at once. I love speaking in cliches, but
Never heard that one, but I like it.
yeah, yeah, because it can feel like, we're going from zero accessibility to now, the goal is to be perfect, right? Whatever
Right.
perfect might mean in a situation where things are always changing and evolving as people change and evolve.
Mhm.
Um, but I think that's sort of the part that makes it less intimidating for yourself to take on. And it makes it easier for you to find your champions to champion the specific change that you're looking at. So, I think most of us, I don't want to say what I think people think. In my experience, what I've seen is that we tend to focus a lot on our lived experience first. And so that makes complete sense, right? We're human. This is what we think. So if you're starting with your lived experience, think of it as your workplace. So are there policies? There sometimes can be little things like,
Mhm.
changing the name of a policy from maternity leave to parental leave. That is just that's an important step in that direction, but it doesn't make everybody think that there's going to be this huge undertaking of work. So you can start to get some good momentum and good little wins
Of course.
without kind of saying, this is everything we need to do all at once, because everyone's going to get intimidated. People resist change no matter what.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say to kind of start first. Yeah, I would say start with your workplace if you can.
I love what you said about perfection. I think one of the biggest barriers for people in any type of equity work, doesn't matter what you call it, or employee experience, HR, et cetera, is we want things to be perfect or we want to say the right thing or do the right thing. And when we remove that moral imperative, we're progressing. And you just said it, things evolve, things change. What could have been accessible 5 years ago might no longer be accessible. Language
Hmm.
changes, right? So I love that you're highlighting, don't focus on perfection, focus on progress, focus on the evolution, focus on the here and now. And in most cases, focus on your workplace. Like, what are those small shifts?
Yeah. And partnership. I
Yes.
think, not to cut you off, I think that's sort of the key thing because, you know, you can't go at a big initiative alone,
Truth.
or you can't go at any kind of initiative alone unless it's your own personal initiative, right, for yourself. But there's a natural tendency for people to fear change or to fear something that they can't relate to or that they don't understand. And so it sounds all well and good when you can tell a story in hindsight and say, "Oh yeah, it went great. It was perfect." But, that's rarely the way that it ever actually goes. Expect that there will be resistance, and that
Right.
resistance is usually coming from a place of fear of change. Um, and frankly, just to say it, there's also a political aspect to it that people just resist aspects of accessibility because they think that that puts them in some sort of moral position that makes them better than whatever.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of one of those things that I think it's really important to have clear conviction in what it is that you want and need, um, and encourage some sort of collaborative partnership. And the thing that it's so funny because I have an HR brain and I have a founder brain and I have a revenue brain. The thing that will help any organization start to think about accessibility is if you can tie it to some sort of business bottom line. So, how it's going to save you money or make you money. And at first, it might feel a little weird because
Mm.
you want to just be like, it's just the right thing to do. And it is. But in a lot of situations, in order for it to get the attention that it needs to be connected to this is how we're going to win more customers. This is how we're going to stop losing money in people turning over because this workplace isn't built for them. And
Mhm.
so it's just the truth of it because there's always going to be that resistance, but if you can tie it to something businessy, I'll say, it helps you to get that buy-in and that collaboration because it shows it as like, hey, this is something that we care about together. This is how we can go about it.
Absolutely. And I appreciate your emphasis on partnership and collaboration. So for folks, if they're working at organizations with employee resource groups or with human resources, or they have a employee experience person, if they can, starting those conversations are can be as simple as I noticed something on the website. That could be it. It
Yeah.
could be here's something that I think we could it could be an individual contributor who has no stake in whatever the thing is and is just thinking from another perspective and your perspective on the return on investment. I don't call it the business case, I call it ROI
Yeah.
because it's an investment, right? Like
Yeah.
we're investing money in order to be somewhere. To add on to your point about folks using the business case or return on investment, look at the statistics. I mean, more people than not are disabled or under that umbrella neurodivergent. So, like, these are things that will eventually impact the business decisions, business
Yeah.
case, whatever.
Yeah. Business impact. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm with you.
What 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 else do you want to leave our listeners with? Because we're coming up on time.
Yeah, I would say don't get discouraged, which I know
Mm,
is such an easy thing to say right now when we're in these types of conversations. Um, but it is sort of, don't get discouraged when there's something that is important and there's something that does matter. Staying, sticking with what you're
mm,
passionate about and sticking with what matters will go a long way because the thing that I know about change management, which is something that HR does a lot, you can live and breathe change management, is that a lot of people need to hear the same message. It used to be like 7 to 9 times. I say now it's more like 50 because everyone's just hearing so much stuff. But the more consistent you are in repeating yourself, in saying the same things, letting things kind of like fail and then bring them back and say, well, this could have solved that or this could have done that. Just don't get discouraged and stick with your ideas and stick with what you know is going to matter because some people just need to hear it a bunch before they realize that this is something that they need to help move forward to. And when you are feeling those moments where you're discouraged and you're just like, I want to throw the whole thing away, call a friend, call someone in your community, talk about that because that needs to be acknowledged, processed. Maybe you'll get help. Maybe you just need to vent. All of
mm,
that stuff is part of this work and it's part of this experience. So
absolutely.
stick with it. I believe in you. Whoever you are listening right now, I believe in you.
I believe in you too. Take a nap also.
Yes. Yeah, sometimes that's just what you need.
Sometimes we
It's
just or touch some grass.
yeah.
Sometimes
Do I need
that's
to quit
okay.
my job or do I just need a nap? Maybe a
Do
walk
I
around the block.
do I need lunch?
Yeah.
Ask
Usually
yourself
that's
that
that.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, those questions are important.
Yeah.
So thanks, folks, for tuning in. Rebecca is on LinkedIn and is active. So if you want to follow her, I'm sure there are resources somewhere on the Rethinkability website. Rebecca, thank you. You're a
Thank
joy.
you.
Um,
Likewise.
have a good rest of your day.
Have a good day, everyone. Thank you.